please help me in welcoming Pastor Ben.
Hey, sorry, I'm coming from the back here. I have something special. This is amazing, and you're going to want to see this. I know, I'm going right. Careful now. This is a serious machine. Josh, would you help me with this real quick? This is my world-famous snowblower, and part of the reason I want you to see this, I know this is a snowblower. Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm Ben, and I'm happy to be here, and I'm glad you're at church as well. This snowblower, I know it's the first part of June, but I really wanted you to see my snowblower because this snowblower is better than all of your snowblowers. And I love this snowblower. In fact, when I moved into Sun River a couple years ago, and my first year, I was using what they call a shovel, and it's a manual thing. And my neighbor had pity on me, and he had a nice big one, and he had this in his garage left over from something. So he says, "Hey, would you like this snowblower?" And my first thought was like, "Really?" And my second thought, as soon as I got that thing running, this is an amazing snowblower. And I know you can't see it as well over here, but this thing is incredible, and it's got paddles on it. When I first started snowblowing my driveway, it like licks it clean. It's like using spatulas to clean it, and it's the cleanest, best job, and it took me an hour and 15 minutes to do my driveway. A couple years later, I ended up getting a real snowblower, and it only took 22 minutes. So anyway, I don't use this one as often anymore, just because I love my time, but I do love this machine, and this is an incredible snowblower machine, and so it has nothing to do with the message today. I just wanted you to see it, and because I'm really proud of it, and I'm not going to auction it. It's not for sale, but if somebody did throw out a really big number, I might sell it, but I don't know if I would. Anyway, I love this thing. This is my Toro. It still runs and runs perfectly, by the way. And Toro. It's a serious machine. When I was in college, I ended up quitting a job that I was in. I worked for the dean of students, he's the guy who did all the discipline for the college. And I realized about 8 months into this job, I'm never going to get a girlfriend. And so if I'm in charge of discipline, so I ended up quitting the job because I wanted to have friends. I was missing them, and I also wanted to have girlfriends. So I quit the job, and it took me a while in Portland, actually. That's where I was at and to find a job. And I went into so many places, and I applied, and I needed a job. I needed to work. And so it was just over and over again, like, come on, let's try and find a place. I finally walked into this one place called Precision Landscape Services. And I was just going from place to place, and I walked in. I didn't even know what it was until I found out, I walked in, oh, it's a landscape company. That's great. So I sat down, and I talked to the big boss, and I was asking him about hiring. He wanted to hire me. The issue was I went to school until 12, so I could start working at 1, but all of his crews left at 6:30 in the morning. So, the guy liked me. Hey, I'd love to give you a job. He said, but you can't be here at 6:30 in the morning, so I'm sorry I can't give you a job. But I needed a job. So I said, well, let's talk this out a little bit, see if we can make something work. And he's thinking, how am I going to offer you a job I don't have? And I said, well, tell me about your system. Because he was telling me how cool his system was that he had built over the years. And so he had this idea in the system. And anyway, I got to listening to him. And I said, okay, at the end of the day, he gets to this whole thing. At the end of the day, the guys come back into the shop, and they clean up their equipment, put on new blades, get everything cleaned and fixed, and then they leave. And I said, okay, well, what time do they get back? He says, they get back at 3:30. And I said, that's cool. What time do they leave? He says, well, they clock off between 4:30 and 4:45. I says, okay, and how many guys do you have? He says, I have 20. I do the math. I says, you're paying them from the time they get back, you're paying an extra 20 hours in labor for guys to go to the bathroom and get a drink and slowly, wind down for their day. I said, what if, mind you, what if when they came back, they walked in, clocked off, and went home, and you paid some college kid, I happen to know one, you paid some college kid to clean all the equipment, maintenance all the equipment, fix it all, and get it ready for them the next day. I said, what do you think about that? Because I would only be here 6 hours, and you're paying 20 to 22 hours every day. I think I could save you money. And he goes, that's a great idea. Yes. So it was at that moment he hired me as a small engine mechanic. And for the people who know me, it's really funny because I had walked myself into a job in which I had no previous experience. And so I got hired, he asked the question. So, do you know small engine mechanic? Of course I do. Yes, I do. Yeah, I want this job. And so, anyway, I remember day one, I showed up and I walk out to the back area, I'm looking through this stuff, and it's just like this graveyard of equipment. And I have 2 hours, because it came in at 1 o'clock, I had 2 hours to fix everything before everybody came in. And I remember just walking in there I don't have a clue what's going on. And the guy who was there helping, not the boss, but the manager, he was going to show me around and show me where some stuff is. And I said, hey, I got a question, just simple question. How do I know when to put regular gas or mixed gas in it? And he looked at me and he goes, well, that's simple. He says, you put mixed gas in a 2-cycle and put, straight gas in all 4 cycles. I have one more question. What's a 2-cycle and what's a 4-cycle? Like, could you explain this to me? Now, I know every man in this room is judging me right now. I can feel it. And it's okay. I can take this one. And I remember, just this guy was so amazing. His name was Dave. And with no judgment whatever in his voice, he just explained it to me, and it was beautiful. He said, hey, a 4-cycle is usually a bigger motor, and it requires fuel to run, and it requires oil to keep the engine lubricated so it doesn't overheat. So you put in fuel and oil. He said a 2-cycle is usually a smaller engine, and the oil goes in the fuel because the fuel acts as the lubricant. So when is it 2-cycle or a 4-cycle? And then, because I was this young and aspiring one-day old mechanic, he gave me this just beautiful little nugget, which I've held to this day. He says, hey, listen, if you want to know, obviously, yes, you can check on the gas cap. He says, but look through the machine. If you can find an oil plug or a dipstick, that means it's a 4-cycle. If you cannot find that, put mixed gas inside of it. And I just thought, man, you have saved this company so much money from my mistakes, because this is pretty serious. And I get it, because for most machines, like this one right here, it has a gas cap. And if you can see the gas cap, I know it's far away for you, but you've seen this before. It has a little picture of a gas and a little thing of an oil. This reminds you that it needs to be a mix. And for most people, they have this thing. I have it here. And if you would see it, there's ever a mix, separate thing, which is mix, and I keep in my garage for all the 2-cycles, now that everybody knows. And the gas cap tells you the issue was, for me, is that quite often the guys would break them or lose the gas caps. So when it came back, I'm trying to figure out which gas cap do I put on it, because the next guy's going to put whatever this is in it. And what's interesting about a machine like this is that you really do want to put the right thing in it. Because if you put the wrong thing in it, it'll overheat, or it'll mess it up, it'll gum it up, and it won't work correctly. The commandment number 9, which is the one that we're looking at today, is the gas cap indicator to the entire law. It makes everything easy. Sure, you might get to a place where if you continue to choose to read on past Exodus chapter 20, you're going to find that it reads out a lot just like an operation manual for life and for law. And there's all these little do this, don't do this, it does this, you look like here, you put this thing here, and it explains in essence how the system works. But commandment number 9 for all of us that just want a quick little reference point is the gas cap that says how it all works. I want to read it to you. Exodus 20, verses 16. This is the commandment number 9 that we're looking at today. It says this: you shall not give false testimony against your neighbor, which in essence means no lying. Don't lie. It's easy. It's very made simple, is that on the gas cap to the law, it just says this: hey, don't lie. We know this, is that the law runs on truth. If you want the law to work, the covenant that God is initiating with you and with me, especially in the 10 Commandments, which we're looking at now, even the new covenant that we talked about earlier, is that all of the law, all of the covenant that he's initiating with you runs on something called truth. And when we choose to put something else into that, it compromises the system. This is interesting, is that when you look at it, you think, hey, that makes total sense. But we all know that this system is a 2-cycle, because I explained it to you. You didn't have to ask. And it runs on mixed gas, which means I need to take oil in with the fuel, and I need to put it in. So when I fill it up, I come and I get mixed gas. I put it in this little hole right here. And come on, you got that. I put it in this little hole right here. And then I pull this big lever right here, and it goes vroom, vroom, vroom. Now, I love this thing. But what if I wanted to put something else in it, like chocolate milk? Because I run on chocolate milk, therefore this should run on chocolate milk. That makes sense, doesn't it? And so when I take something like a chocolate milk, which is so perfect in and of itself, oh, that's so good. And I decide that I think that it should run on chocolate milk. Here's what we're going to do. Perfect. So this is great. Because this machine is perfect in every way. Therefore, it should learn how to run on chocolate milk with me, shouldn't it? And I know that when I put it into the system, I'm going to leave it here. All I have to do is pull this little thing right here, and the moment I pull it, this system is going to be compromised. Don't we know that? Because the moment that you pull this thing, it takes it from the tank and goes into the engine, and now I'm going to have not just wonderful mixed gas, I might just have some chocolate milk. So you guys want me to pull this, don't you? I told you this was my favorite machine, and I love this machine. But I know that if all I have to do is one little click, and you know what I just did with that chocolate milk. I ruined the system. It's interesting. All law runs on truth. When we look at this commandment, when it talks about don't falsely testify against your neighbor, did you know that actually when it's laid out, it could be written, it could be verbal, it could be absolutely any form of not just full-on lying, but it could even be almost to the point of inferring. When it says your neighbor, I love this because sometimes we try and get our way out of this. Well, what do you mean your neighbor? And your neighbor could be anything from someone that you know as a spouse, to a kid, to a family member, all the way to a fellow countryman, all the way to someone in life. It means anyone. It's the whole gamut. Both of these words, not testifying and falsely, and then also your neighbor, actually are the full gamut of everything. In essence, saying that all life, all law, all truth all run on truth. And the moment I choose to put something else inside of it is the moment I choose to compromise the system. This word is called perjury. Perjury is this. Perjury means to willfully, I love it, I have it here for you. To willfully tell an untruth or a lie under oath. You've heard it before. You've seen it in movies that you watch, right? They put you, if you've been in a courtroom, they put their hand on the Bible and they say, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? And when you choose to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and then you lie while you're underneath the oath, that is called perjury. In fact, perjury still today, if you choose to perjure yourself, is that you can get 3 to 5 years in prison for lying on the stand. Even if it's something small, and they can prove that you lied while you were under oath, you can get 3 to 5 years. If you lie on your taxes, if you decide, hey, listen, I'm not going to claim this, I'm going to switch this thing around here. They don't need to know that anyway, And you just choose to do that. That's up to a 3-year penalty in jail if they can prove that you lied on your taxes. In some states, still today, if you lied in a court case in which it was a capital punishment, which means the sentence was death, and they follow through, if they can prove that you perjured or you lied on the stand, you are actually liable of that same sentence, and they can sentence you to death as well. Not for committing murder, but for committing perjury. In the olden days, they would cut out your tongue just to make sure that you couldn't lie anymore. Like every state, every nation on this planet has a rule against perjury. This one's really serious. It's the whole idea that when you're underneath an oath and then you lie, it compromises the system when you choose to lie. And God's really serious about this one in the commandment. Law, order, justice, and covenant all run on truth. The 10 commandments, what God is initiating with you is an oath. It's a covenant. And if you want that covenant to work, it only works on truth. And the moment that you decide to put anything other than truth in your machine is the moment that this machine is officially compromised. Because this machine only runs on truth. Now, as much as I want to look at it and be like, this is my favorite snowblower and the coolest snowblower, and I know you want this snowblower, and wouldn't it be so cool if it ran on chocolate milk? Wouldn't it be so cool? I think it'd be cool. I think it'd be really cool if it ran on chocolate milk. But the reality is that when I look at this thing, as much as I want it to run on chocolate milk, we all know it won't run on chocolate milk. The moment I try and pull this thing and I try and use it, it's just not going to work. It's just not going to work for us. And so many times when we are in a situation and all of a sudden something's not working for us because we look at it and go, hey, listen, like this isn't working and something's not happening right. And we can almost be forced to look at it and be like, well, you know what? the system is bad. It would, if it was good, it would work on anything, like including chocolate milk. But I can convince myself that the system is bad when the reality is this system is good, or it was good, until I use a lie instead of truth. I have to be willing to step back and say, is it the system that's wrong, or is it the fact that I put chocolate milk in it that compromised the system? I mean, how many times have we, I want to read you this to you actually in Deuteronomy. This is Deuteronomy 19, and this is God giving more explanation on what perjury is. And he's going to explain this, and I think it's so great. If a malicious witness takes the stand to accuse someone of a crime, two people involved in the dispute must stand in the presence of the Lord before the priests and the judges who are in the office at that time. He goes on to say this: the judges must take a thorough investigation, and if the witness proves to be a liar, they've perjured themselves, giving false testimony against the fellow Israelite, then do to the false witness as that witness intended to do to the other party. You must purge the evil from among you. Goes on to say this: the rest of the people will hear this, and they will be afraid, and never again will they put chocolate milk into a snowblower, which is such an evil thing to be done among you. Show no pity, life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, and foot for foot. The moment that I introduce a lie into the system becomes compromised. So do you want to know how God's life works? Do you want to know how the law works and commitment works and covenant works? It works only with truth. And the moment anything besides truth is put into it is the moment that it's compromised. And it's not the system that's compromised. It was what I put into it that's compromised. You know, we've heard this a lot in the last probably year and a half, is that I think all of us would probably admit that maybe what's going on in our state and even our country, you can step back and maybe you have this feeling of like it's unfair and it's not working. You know, when something like an injustice, whether it's in your home or whether it's in our nation, an injustice comes to light. And we're all waiting for justice to prevail. We're all waiting for like the hammer to drop, for something to happen, and then all of a sudden it just floats out of sight and nothing happens. You know, we can get discouraged when we seem like, hey, it seems like, and maybe you don't feel this, but maybe you do. It seems like the law and order, the system of right and wrong, or the system of justice just isn't working anymore in our country or in our state. Maybe it's not working in your workplace or in your home. And I've heard so many people step back and tell, you know, to basically say, hey, listen, it's because the system is broken. The system is wrong. The system needs to be rebuilt. We need to start over. The system is failed. Like, we put chocolate milk in it and the system is not working. Therefore, the system is wrong. Like, it's my personal opinion that I don't think our law and order system is wrong. I think that we've just put in a little too much willful untruths into it. And when you interject willful untruths into a system, it will never work. And so when I step back and look at it, I don't think the system needs changed. I think what we're putting into the system does. But that's just my opinion. And you have an opinion as well. I mean, you can keep that to yourself. What's interesting is that in our country, you'll hear this. I'm not going to go into a full explanation of it at this time, but you're going to start to hear these words, and I'm sure you've heard the words, the difference between equity and equality. Equity is our attempt to change the system because we recognize that it's not working. Equality is the system that we've always ran on, but that system only runs on truth. And when you choose not to use truth, equality never works. And so this is something that you're hearing. Equity says that we recognize that the system is broken, or we've given too much to one and not enough to the other. Therefore, what we have to do is we need to now change that, and we need to give less to the person that has had too much. And we need to give a lot more to the people that haven't had enough. Therefore, trying to balance this system and make it equitable. That idea is that the system is wrong and we need to change it. Personally, I like God's system. If you've read our Constitution federally and our Constitution even state-wise, the word equality is used all the time because that's the system that works really, really well. The reason it stopped working is because we stopped putting truth into it. And if we ever want to get back to something that's going to work, whether it be your nation, your state, your life, your marriage, or your friendships, we actually have to start putting truth into it in order for it to work correctly. So each and every one of us has to step back and ask this question. Outside of perjuring yourself in the court of law, which I think we're all going to try to avoid, right? What does it look like to perjure myself on a regular basis? Because I, as a Christian or a Christ follower, I choose to live under a covenant with the Lord. And under that covenant, anytime I interject anything other than truth, I'm now going to compromise the system that I'm in. And so I have to step back and say, hey, what does that look like? Now, for each and every one of us, I think this is that we can, first of all, we can teach our kids what perjury looks like. We can teach our kids the difference between truth and a lie. And the first way that we start teaching them that is actually to almost look at ourselves as examples. And when you're willing to step back and look at your own life as an example, the question is this: are there areas in your life in which you have compromised and you're willing to tell just little white lies? I ask the question, for this system to work, is there ever a reason for me to put in chocolate milk? Yet we've convinced ourselves that little white lies will help. Yet when we live under covenant, we understand it's almost the same thing, like, oh, don't worry about it, right? So when your kids see you, are there ever these moments where, hey, listen, we're just not going to tell mom about this real quick. Just put a little bit of that in there. Don't tell anyone. Don't worry, on Sunday we'll go to church, we'll mix it with everything. So good, because we're doing awesome. Yeah, this is great. Sounds good. Awesome, yeah. I'm doing awesome. This is great. But hey, just do me a favor. Don't tell your mom this. Hey, don't tell your dad this. We have these little white lies. Nowadays, you get the opportunity to lie every time you walk into any place because they ask you your medical history. And so you just, how much information do you want to know? And so you walk in, and it's one of those things where it's like, hey, by the way, are you this and that and this and that? And your kids are watching you. Hey, listen, whatever, shut up, here we go. Sounds good. We'll work it out of the system later, don't worry. But your kids saw that. Your kids saw that so for some reasons, it's okay to lie. It's okay to lie to mom, or it's okay to lie to the guy at REI. I didn't lie to the guy at REI. I get so frustrated. And there's these little areas in life. Maybe it's your boss. Hey, by the way, is that thing done? Yes. Yeah, it's finished. It's done. It'll be done by the end of the day. Don't worry. It'll be done. But then your coworkers saw you. And if we're going to live underneath a covenant, we have to remind ourselves that this covenant that we live under only works with truth. And the moment we start introducing even these little white lies is the moment that we're going to compromise our system. And our system won't work, and then there's areas of our life that just continue to not work, Perjury, we can teach our kids the next time, and I know I'm speaking to the parents in the room, right? But it's also to grandparents too, because you lie to your kids, grandkids all the time, we know that. And, oh, you can be anything you want. Really? Really? Yeah, sure. One time I asked my CrossFit coach, I said, why is it that you look like that and I look like this? And he said, I was hoping he would be like, hard work. No, he said, genetics. But my grandma said I could be whatever I want. Not true. It's the whole point of like, hey, can I have an Oreo? No, kid, these are way too spicy. You cannot have an Oreo. These are just way too spicy for you. We do this thing where we have these itty-bitty compromises, but we really don't step back at the point and realize is that we're actually called to live to a higher standard. That's what God's calling us to live to, is a standard in which we never lie. And I know that's hard, but it's also the only way in which your system will ever work. And the moment you start putting little lies into it, maybe it's a big lie or little lies into it, is the moment that it stops working. And so in my house, we have, for lying, there's a double portion. You lie, you get double portion of everything. So, and we can teach our kids perjury where something happens and some kid lies. Hey, they took this, they stole this, they did this. And then all of a sudden it comes back around and you realize that they said that as a lie. Now, according to the 9th commandment in Deuteronomy, in perjury, if they lied, the question is what was going to be the consequence of that for the other kid? Okay, it's sweet, whether it's a chore or privilege taken away or something like this. I'm not advocating child abuse. I'm just saying, Because you can look at it and be like, hey, sweet, if this would have happened, they would have double chores. So guess what? You get yours and theirs. That's not fair. I didn't do that. I know, but you lied, and perjury gets the consequence for whatever it was perjured for. So without crossing that line, you know what I mean? But we can teach our kids, because that is how it works. There's two things that I would encourage you to do based off of commandment number 9. If you're going to walk in truth, if you're going to walk in commandment number 9, there's two things that you're going to need to do. The first one is you need to make a commitment to yourself to never lie. I know it sounds easy, but it's not. Because you're going to find out this week, as you start to walk through each day, how much of a liar you actually are. You go, oh no. Come to find out, I lie every day. But we have to make a commitment not to lie to our friends. Not to lie to our spouses or our kids, not to lie to our grandkids, not to lie to the person standing on the border in California asking you if you have fruit in your car. You know? I know you. How many times have I bought beautiful cherries in Klamath Falls? It's a trap. You buy these wonderful cherries in Klamath Falls, and you're eating them in the car, only to all of a sudden find yourself driving across the border, and they're hide the cherries, kids. Put them under the seats. Put them under the seats, you know. And then that person, who chooses that job, we don't know. And who wakes up in the morning? You know what I want to be? I want to be the person who stands on their feet all day long in the heat and asks people if they have fruit in their car. Who does that? And so they ask you, hey, do you have fruit in your car? No, kids, shut up. Shh, No, there's no fruit in the car. No fruit in the car. But what happened is that you thought it was small and it doesn't matter, but your kids watched you just go like this. Shut up, kids. Shh, don't say anything. And they watch you. And I know it's small, but it's true. And so you have an opportunity every single day to ask the question, what is it that you're going to put into the system? Because when you choose to live in a system that only operates in truth, the moment you put a lie into it, you are completely compromised. You're going to have to learn to just not lie. And I know it's tough. And some of you have convinced yourself, I don't lie. That's correct. You don't lie. You tell the truth. But if you're willing to look at it, sometimes you don't tell the whole truth or nothing but the truth. That's why they made that full statement in the court of law, because they know you little turkeys, you will get out of it. Oh, I did say the truth. Yeah, but did you tell the whole truth? Not really. Did you tell nothing but the truth? And we have to live to a higher standard. This is the oath or the covenant in which God's calling us to. The second thing that you're going to have to do is if you choose to be someone who's only going to tell the truth, you're going to have to learn to do something else well. You're going to have to learn to hold your tongue. I asked the question, is it better to withhold a little bit of gasoline from this and let it run out of gas, or to compromise by putting a little bit of chocolate milk in it? Is it better to hold your tongue and just not talk for this system, or is it better to just get by with a little bit of this? Well, if I just mix them, it should be fine. The reality is, that's why in the court of the law they give you the Fifth Amendment. Hey, I plead the Fifth, right? It's so you don't perjure yourself. There are some things that you should not say. Hey, listen, I have little kids. There are things all the time that they're like, hey, Dad, look at, no. Shh, not in public, don't say that. Dad, did you see? No, like, don't say that. There are some things that you just don't need to say. Unfortunately, we have a hard time controlling our tongues, and so instead of saying nothing, we try and make up a white lie to step out of it gently. But maybe I can propose to you today that has more harm on your system than simply keeping your mouth shut. Because commandment number 9 says don't perjure yourself. And you got to be willing to hold your tongue and to just to bite it, just for just a little bit of time, and not say anything. You also have to be willing to let your friends, your spouse, your coworkers also bite their tongue. How many times has somebody just not wanted to talk, but you goad them? Oh, come on, no, you have to. The only thing you're going to get out of them is perjury or the truth. And both of those aren't good. Truth's going to hurt you. Perjury's going to hurt them. Why would you do that to somebody? Why not let people not answer sometimes? You don't have to answer everything. When somebody asks the question, did you, you can just be quiet. Well, your silence is telling me everything I need to know. No, my silence is keeping me from sin. and you from being hurt? I can be quiet. It's okay. I don't have to answer that question. You're not hiding anything. You're just avoiding pretty serious consequences. Because we kind of get into the habits of just white lying to get out of it. It's interesting, isn't it? The Bible actually has a lot of verses on this. I want to read a few of them to you. Hundreds of verses on the tongue. Proverbs 6:16 says this: there are 6 things that the Lord hates, 7 that are detestable to him: haughty eyes, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked schemes, feet that are quick to rush into evil, a false witness who pours out lies, and a person who stirs up conflict in the community. Proverbs 12:22 says this: the Lord detests lying lips, but he delights in people who are trustworthy, full of truth. I'll read you in James. He also says this in James: likewise, the tongue is a small part of the body, but it makes great boasts. Consider what a great forest is set on fire by such a small, itty-bitty spark. The tongue also, your tongue, is a fire, a world of evil among the parts of your body. It corrupts the whole body, and it sets the course of one's life on fire. It itself is set on by the fire of hell. That's like pretty serious. Your tongue has the power for life and the power for death. It has the power to tell truth or the power to tell a lie. The question is, which one are you going to speak of? You know, in all the 10 commandments, the first 8 that we're talking about are all hard issues. They're things that challenge you to how you believe, what you think, how you feel, and then how you will then act. This is the very first one that just gives you a little gas cap indicator of how you can ruin everything. You want to ruin everything? You want to ruin all the rest of the 8 commandments? You want to ruin your relationship with the Lord? You want to ruin your relationship with each other? Maybe your marriage? You want to ruin the things in your life? Put something other than truth into it and see what happens. Because his commandments, his life that he has for you runs on truth. Are you struggling in your marriage? Try using truth. Well, they can't handle the truth. It would never happen. No, truth is amazing. And it's the only thing that can fix the hard, broken pieces in your life. We have to be committed as people to always tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. I like this commandment because it's the first one that really challenges what you say. Rachel, would you come up? Jesus as our prime example. It's amazing. In Mark 14, he's in the Garden of Gethsemane, and this is the end of his life. They go and they get him, and they drag him in the middle of the night to this to this house, this place in which they're going to have a trial in the middle of the night. And it says that he was brought there, and they brought all these people forward. And it says that many false witnesses came, and they stood before, and they gave a false testimony about Jesus. They're trying to find something that would convict him. The issue is that they couldn't get the false testimonies to match up. They said nobody can, we can't collaborate any story. And so there was false testimony after false testimony, which was perjury after perjury. And if we look at this, we even know that they brought Jesus to death, which means the penalty for that person who perjured is also death. They perjured themselves knowing that the penalty for them is actually death. But they did it anyway out of hate. And they perjured themselves. And they couldn't get any stories to match up. So finally, he looks at me and says this, and the high priest stood up before them and he asked Jesus, he said, are you going to answer? What is this testimony that these men are bringing against you? And Jesus remained silent. He gave no answer. Is it better to just put a little bit of lie in there and go at it, or is it better just to hold your tongue and just let it sit? Jesus remained silent. And the high priest asked him, he says, okay, fine. We can't find anything to match up against you, but are you the Messiah, the Son of the Blessed One? Maybe you can figure this out yourself. And Jesus said, I am. This is the same I am that's used by God at Moses in the burning bush. It's the one name of God in which nobody was allowed to say. He says, I am, and you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One and coming unto the clouds. The high priest was so mad at this that he tore his clothes and he said, why do we need any witnesses? He asked, you've heard the blasphemy. What do you think? And then they all condemned him as worthy of death. What's interesting is that Jesus spoke truth into that system, and that system condemned him. That tells us that that system is wrong. Jesus created a beautiful covenant and system in which when we insert truth, it works perfectly. But when you insert truth into something that is a broken system, nothing can fix that. Yet, he chose to continue to live in truth. And he finishes with this in John 14:6 as he says, I am the way, I am the truth, and I am the life. If there are areas in your life in which you can see are not working, maybe it's your marriage, maybe it's your relationship with your parents, or your relationship with your kids, or maybe it's your relationship with a boss, or your health, or something is not working in your life and you need life brought into it, I want to encourage you that the system that he built works well, but it works on truth. And so if you want to know the way in which God is calling each and every one of us as believers, the way is truth leads to life. And so we need to look at our lives this week and ask that question. How can I infuse more truth into everything that I'm doing? Sure, when we look at our systems, some of us are compromised. And you know what? As the Lord even gave us an antidote, he said, hey, through repentance of sin, you can start it over and get back to truth. All it takes is for us to apologize, say, God, I'm sorry. I repent of my sin, and I'm so sorry. I want to get back to, I want to reset that standard in my home. I want to reset that standard in my life, in my tongue. I want to reset that standard in my marriage and reset that standard in everything that I do. And through repentance, it cleanses the system. And then I want to remind you that the system works perfect when it runs on truth. And it leads to life. But it's your choice. It's your choice what you're going to do this week. I don't think the system needs changed. I just think we need to cleanse it, and we need to continue to operate in truth. Let's bow our heads. Jesus, thank you. Thank you that you've created a perfect covenant, a perfect oath, and a perfect law and justice and a perfect system for our lives. Lord, would we continue to operate in truth, to commit to only speak the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to each and every person around us. And then would we also continue to learn how to hold our tongue when needed. God, help us as we try and live out this life that you have for each and every one of us. Thank you, Lord, for your commandments, for they are good. Help us commit to truth this week. In Jesus' name.